So, I had met a guy online. We talked for a day or two, but I was at the tail end of my degree, and things were getting to be a lot. So, I decided no dating until I was done. I let the handful of guys that seemed nice know before deleting the dating app, so they would know why I deleted it, and wouldn't think that I had ghosted because of them. He happened to be online when I sent it and said that I seemed cool, can we keep in touch? Sure, no worries, and I added him on Facebook. Maybe once a week he's like, hey, how are you? What are you up to? Just normal conversation stuff. I would chat about university, work, the gym, whatever. After maybe 2 to 3 months, he's like, hey, we've been chatting for a bit. Let's grab coffee. I'm like, yeah, sure, he seems nice enough. I reiterated it would be his friends and that was fine with him. I was about to head into exams, so we made plans for in 3 weeks' time after I had finished them. He had started messaging me more and more regularly after making plans, more than once a day, and he starts calling it a date, which people call catching up a coffee date without it meaning an actual date. But I wanted to make sure that we were still on the same page, so I just said, hey, you keep calling it a date, just making sure that we're clear it's just a catch-up as friends. He snapped. He was sending me all sorts of horrible things on Facebook, so I blocked him. I had given him my number so we could make plans, so he started calling and calling, leaving voicemails. It was late, so I put my phone on silent and I went to sleep. The next morning, I wake up to 37 missed calls and voicemails between 10 p.m., continuing until 4 a.m., as well as a multitude of horrible texts. Now, this was 7 years ago, when you couldn't just block someone on a phone. At first I thought if I ignored him, he would get bored. After about a week, he wasn't slowing down, with dozens of calls a day. I called my phone company to get him blocked, and they said that you can only block 3 people, are you sure? I had to jump through all the hoops and then they turned around and said that they couldn't do it, so I would have to call the police. So I called the police and they say that I have to call the phone company, but I can make a statement of harassment in case he does something more. 3 weeks later, he's still going strong, but in his text he starts saying he's going to force me to go on a date with him, and that I won't have a choice and blah blah. And then he starts saying that if I won't come to him, he'll come to me, and is telling me my schedule with where I will be at any given time, which he put together based on our weekly conversations about normal stuff, threatening to come to where I'll be. I had to stop doing my regular activities and pretty much become a hermit. He ended up making a threat to my life. I can't remember what he said word for word, but it was essentially, girls like you get what they deserve, or something like that. But more clearly threatening he would be the one to make it happen. I contacted the police again, and that was enough for an RVO, and I never heard from him again. Oh, and I was 20, but his pictures looked younger, so I didn't realize online, but it turned out this guy was 34. So this wasn't dumb young kid behavior, this was a grown man. I've had many other psychos since this guy, but I'm very grateful phones have since allowed you to block anyone, anytime. A little background. I grew up in my teens in a big city. Because of abuse, I was hypersexualized but refrained out of fear. If it matters, I'm a white male. While in junior high, I had a few friends but was not shy or reclusive, just an average boogerhead. While outside on lunch break, I was walking by the monkey bars. A couple of girls were sitting on the chin-up bars off to the side. As I passed, one of the girls started talking to me. Just normal questions, who are you, what grade, your age, etc. One of the girls made the spin, down or they slept. Anyway, she was hanging upside down by one knee. She had locked her other leg in a similar position and turned loose with her hands. Her skirt slid down right over her head. She was fully exposed since her bra didn't fit right. Everyone was laughing and looked, but no one was helping, and no one noticed the tissue that I could plainly see. I grabbed her shirt and pulled it up to cover her, helped her to get down, and walked with her to the building. I figured, good deed done. Not quite. After school, she was waiting for me. She gave me a hug and then kissed me on the mouth. I pulled back because I didn't know this person and I didn't want to get involved. I guess she thought I was offended and she asked me, "What's wrong?" I told her that no, it wasn't a problem being kissed, and she asked what the problem was. I truthfully told her that I did not remember her name, and I didn't know her. She laughed and said, "Letitia." We said goodbye and I went and caught the bus. The following Monday, Letitia is waiting for me at lunch. She tells me that she never did thank me for saving her. I told her not to worry about it, it's cool. We walked around the soccer field and then she stops me with her hand and says, "My mom wants to meet you." I asked her why and she tells me that she told her mom what had happened and now she wants to meet me. She goes on to say, "She's picking me up so you can meet her then." We go back to our classes. I never was academically inclined, so now the dang day would just not move along. School ends and after dragging my butt, I meet Letitia. We walk to the parking lot and she gets all happy and says, "Oh, there's my mom." We walk over and her mom gets out of the car and gives me a hug. I'm internally losing it. She says how good it is to meet me, how nice I was to have been there for her daughter, and then she says, "You should come over for dinner." What are you talking about? I start making excuses about how my parents don't let me out on school nights, and she says, "Oh, don't worry, it's all taken care of. I already called your mother. Dinner tomorrow night at 6. They get in their car and I get on the bus, cussing phone books. "Mother, why did you say yes?" She replies that it will do me good to meet other people and girls. I had visions of telling her, oh, that I'd met her alright. I've seen some stuff too. We even tongue wrestled. The next day just stings. It takes forever and at the same time, it jerks forward at warp speed. Lunch break truly sucked. Letitia told everyone that I was going to her house for dinner. Oh, and to meet my dad. I was seriously freaking out. I walk back to the building and spend the rest of the school day planning my getaway while answering questions about dinner. What's for dinner? The day ends without me having a plan. She walks me to the bus since her mom isn't there yet, and then she kisses me again and the bus driver was watching too. I get home, say not one word to anyone and go to my room. My mom pops her head in and tells me to change for my date and goes back to where the hell she came from. She drives me over and says that they'll bring me home. No, you come and get me. I don't know these people. I don't know why I'm going, why I was invited or anything. You should come get me, Mom, or I'm not going. She agrees and tells Letitia's mother that she'll pick me up. They agreed on a time and my mom leaves. I meet her 3 brothers, her 2 sisters, a cousin, and her grandmother. Everyone was cool. Well, one brother kept giving me the stink eye, but there's nothing I can do, so I ignored it. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could hang out with the 3 brothers, even the one with the stink eye, but that didn't happen. I ended up there sitting next to Grandma, which was cool because Letitia was hovering. After about 15 minutes of nothing, her dad comes home, and this man is huge. He steps up to me as I stand. I thought about running, and he smothers my hand in his. He says, "So, you're the boy who's seen and rescued my daughter." I stood there and thought that I was gonna pass out. He asked me a couple of questions that I just nodded or shook my head to. My mind is screaming at me to talk. He says, "Take a seat," and I did. He spoke for a while, telling me that relationships were difficult at best. I can feel my neck twisting around to look at Letitia, while he says that at most, you can expect a little hostility. She walks over and sits above me on the arm of the couch. I'm looking at her dad and then her. Over and over again. She reaches out and takes my hand. I finally find my words and whisper, "What did you tell them?" She laughed and said, just that we were girlfriend and boyfriend. I didn't mention the other thing we did. No, heck no, I'm thinking. You kissed me. Do you think that she whispered this? Not a chance. Her dad stops talking and is just looking at us. Her grandmother, having sat right there the whole time, turns and adjusts her seat on the couch so she too can look at us. I'm turning red, embarrassed, yes, but I'm getting upset. Her dad says, "What thing?" I told him, "She kissed me." It came out as an accusation. He looks at me and then looks at her. He takes a deep, slow breath and says, "Well, maybe you two will make it. When the two of you are old enough, and if you still want to, I'll give you my blessing." "Blessing for what?" I say. He says, "You'll marry my daughter." I'm stunned. I'm having a major brain fart. I snap out of it when she starts sliding on the arm like she's gonna land on me. I popped up and ran out the door. Forget being picked up, I'm running home. I eventually get home to an empty house. I go to my room and lay on the bed. The phone rings. I go into the kitchen and answer it, and it's my neighbor. He asks if I'm okay, and I say that I am. He tells me that my mom was out driving the street looking for me. She got a call that I had left in a rush and everyone was worried. I said that I was fine and I hung up. I turned on a lamp in the living room to show that someone was home and I went to bed. The phone rings again, but I return to the kitchen and answer. "You will marry my daughter." It was her dad. "I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the phone games again." "Sir, I wouldn't marry your daughter for anything," he says. "You will marry her," I said. "I don't know what she's told you. I don't know if she is as crazy as you are, but I am not not marrying her or anyone else. I helped her and she kissed me. I don't even know her name. We are not dating and we have never dated, and we never will." He got quiet for a bit, then he said, "Is what you just said is true?" I replied, "Every word." He tells me to watch out for his sons until he can collect them, and then he hangs up. Brothers, son of a gun. The brothers then announce themselves with a pounding on the door. Oh, it's the whole family. They are totally nuts. I start gearing up with multiple sweaters and 2 pairs of blue jeans. I get my bat ready, and I walk into the living room. I look out the bay window. They're still there. I look at my dad's gun rack, but I don't grab one. I know they're loaded. I do mentally select the weapon I will use if everything goes left. The banging is stopped and I look out the window again. The neighbor is talking to the brothers. While I watch, first my mom pulls into the driveway, and then their father pulls up. My mom goes and talks to them. I can picture her telling them to all come in. After a minute or two, she comes in. "Are you okay?" "Mom, was this some kind of joke or prank? Please say yes." She walks over and hugs me and says, "No. Son, you did a good thing at school. Don't let this stop you from doing the right thing," she continued. "I'm sorry, I had no idea." I went to my room where I just sat there. I don't even remember what I was thinking. To this day, almost 40 years later, I just shake my head when this memory returns. I was about 13 or 14 and I was babysitting 2 boys for some church members. I had done it before and the kids had loved me and the parents were very comfortable with me. This was a night where they were going to be gone for pretty much until like 2:30 in the morning. I was doing it for free that day because they were going to do something church related, and that's just how I rolled. Anyway, the house they lived in was an apartment complex. You know, one of those small ones that had 2 floors and 4 places in each spot. They're on the bottom floor with 2 bedrooms on either side of the apartment, with the kitchen on the left, and the living room on the right, with the sliding glass door to a small patio, and a public bathroom next to the front door. It was about, I think, 1:30 and I knew they would be getting home soon. The kids were conked out. Obviously, after practically begging and 3 bedtime stories. And I had finished my homework and they didn't have cable. This was before Netflix was ever a thing. So, they had a couple of DVDs and VHSs to watch, so I grabbed Land Before Time to make the night go quicker. I was already very tired and I had nodded off a couple times. At about 2, I could hear knocking on the front door. Knowing the parents had a key, I did nothing but sit there in the dark with the TV glowing. Being a paranoid person who watches and reads enough horror, I grabbed the baseball bat that was next to the couch. And what happened next will haunt me forever. I heard a small voice, almost like a young woman's. "Oh dear, that won't help you now." My heart stopped, and I realized the patio door didn't have the blind shut. My eyes shift slowly to the door and I see someone on the patio staring in. I couldn't make out anything other than that they were very short and wide. I screamed and ran into the kids' room. Thankfully, they were all still asleep. Sadly, this was before I had a cell phone, and there were no cordless phones. All I did was push the dresser in front of the door and stared out of the one window of the room. That's when it became dark as a shadow loomed on the window. The knocking started again, and the woman's voice called out, "Oh, come on, dearie, I won't hurt you. Please come out." The window was being knocked on so hard that I was afraid it would break. The kids finally woke up and they were all screaming and they were really scared. I was a big girl and could at that time lift my own weight, but knowing that I had 2 kids with me, I became very vulnerable and afraid. Within 2 seconds, I hear the father yell out, "Hey, who the heck are you?" And the person on the porch ran off. The front door opened, and there was a harsh knocking on the kids' bedroom door. Thankfully, it was the parents, and after I let them in and put the dresser back, I explained what had happened and they called the police. When they arrived, they obviously found nothing but the bushes that hide the patio. They were obviously cut up and ripped up to get through. I babysat for them once more after that, but after they moved away about 5 months later, I never babysat anyone ever again. And again to this day, I know the woman was long gone, but every time I hear a knock, a chill just runs through me. It's been about 11 years. It was autumn and nighttime, and I decided to take a little walk around our housing estate with my dog Sunny. Sunny is a black and big Labrador mix. She is really good and cuddly, but she hates other female dogs. She also has a strong protective instinct and always snarls when she doesn't know or doesn't like someone or something. There were no streetlights inside the settlement. The only lighting was always at the house entrances. There is a small park with small playgrounds between the row of houses. But, as already mentioned, everything was in complete darkness. That's why Sunny was not to be seen, only to be heard now and then when she was chasing a rabbit into the bushes. And then it goes without saying that she wasn't on a leash. I only need this when other female dogs are nearby. Sunny listens to my word and always comes when I call her. So, when I strolled comfortably through the dark settlement and froze my butt off, Sunny ran happily through the area and the bushes. I always only guessed where she was, because I could not see her, only heard her from time to time. At some point, I noticed a small shadow that was whizzing around me. When I looked more closely, I could see Sunny. She ran in large circles around me in the place where I was, and I thought that she was chasing something. But the circles she drew grew smaller and smaller. She didn't make any noise and I went on comfortably, because I thought she was having her 5 minutes. At some point, I didn't see her anymore, but I went on knowing that she would follow. Then I heard a sound. Footsteps, but they weren't my own. I was startled because they were so close behind me so suddenly, and so I turned around but couldn't see anything thanks to the darkness. I got nervous and called for Sunny because it could have been someone with a dog. Sunny didn't come and I easily panicked. She suddenly stood in front of me out of nowhere and began to growl as violently as she had never done before. My blood froze because it couldn't be a good thing. And then she started walking straight ahead, growling about 2 or 3 meters. Stopped, and at that moment I recognized a figure, completely in black. The person was shocked in front of Sunny, and didn't move, and Sunny started barking like there was no tomorrow. This person slowly walked backwards, toward the lighted house entrances, and then I saw Sunny bare teeth in front of a young man, wearing a hooded sweatshirt, and probably started to experience the same fears as I did when I noticed him. Because as close as he had snuck up on me, he couldn't have had any good in mind. Since it was too dark, however, he could not see Sunny, and she must have surprised him at the right moment. Sunny started to jump, and at that moment, the guy let out a scream and you could hear something falling from his hand on the floor. He ran and my dog followed. After I had released myself from my shock stiffness, I called out to Sunny as loud as I could, until after a short time, she was standing in front of me again, wagging her tail. I took her on the leash and then went to where the guy had dropped something, and indeed, there was an arm-thick branch on the floor that he certainly didn't have with him to throw sticks. At home, it gradually dawned on me that my Sunny did not have her 5 minutes when she had circled me, but that she had long since noticed and kept an eye on this piece of crap to protect me. On the one hand, that was creepy but also a relief. I was and still am so grateful for this great dog